Okay, so within the last video we installed and configured our DNS server so as we can resolve home.local within inside of our own machine without using the hosts file, and just basically adding a zone to this one server. We've also then made it so this one computer, this one server, can resolve other DNS queries, such as when we go onto Firefox and browser websites. Okay, but the next step that we want to do is now download, install and configure our HTTP server, our Apache server. Okay, so what do we need to do? So let's go back to our terminal and let's just press Ctrl L, or you can type clear, does the same thing. And so what we want to do now is install HTTP. So yum install httpd, okay, and then just let it search and it go off and find the package that we need. And there's no other additional packages at this time which you need, so just press just type in Y for yes, and then it will download and install our HTTP server or service daemon. Now by default the HTTP service is not started, therefore you have to manually start it. Alright, but that's not a difficult task. So just to make sure we don't forget, at the beginning we're just going to say check config httpd on, and this is basically going to say that if and when the server has to restart, or if it crashes or any other reason and it falls down and it restarts again, that we know that the httpd daemon is going to restart on boot. Okay, so all of our websites will be back online automatically. If you don't put it to on, then if it does crash, then basically, and it restarts, then your websites aren't going to be live and no one's going to be able to access your website, and you're going to have to manually restart the service. Okay, so it's a good advantage to do. Okay, so let's just clear this. Now where is the configuration file for the HTTP daemon? So all these configuration files are located for HTTPD within inside of the etc directory. So if we just ls this out, and you can see here that we've got a folder of HTTPD. Now what we want to do is we want to go inside of this one folder, okay, and then we can list out here, and as you can see here we've got conf folder and conf.d and logs, modules and run. We want to go inside of the conf folder, and with inside of here we've then got the httpd.conf file. This is the file which we want to edit, so we're just going to say vim httpd.conf. now every single time the server restarts, okay, the service restarts, it's going to load all of the configuration details and settings with inside of this one conf file. Now there's actually only a few things which we need to edit, and the server root is at etc httpd, which is not relevant to us at the moment. Okay, so we're just going to go down a little bit. I mean, you can use the search functionality, but I just want to show you basically where it is. You need to make sure, if you're going to use port 80, that you have listen port 80, so any requests that are on port 80, the HTTPD the HTTP service daemon will then listen out for these requests. You can change that, but that's really another tutorial how to bind the daemon or the service to the IP, the port number. Okay, then we'll just keep going down. Okay, I don't need anything like there. Okay, server name, we're going to change this, so just I for insert mode, get rid of the hash, and then inside of here we're just going to say home.local, so that's the actual server name, but potentially we're going to say David's desktop, that's right, .home.local, because that's the fully qualified name of the one server itself. Okay, so let's keep on going down, and there's really not a lot else that we need to need to configure. The document root, we're going to leave it by default with inside of the var www HTML directory. So all of your websites need to be within inside of the HTML directory. Keep going down, and then once again we've now got the directory setting. We've got this configuration settings for this one directory itself. Now we've got option indexes follow symlinks is fine. Okay, we're going to change this allow override to all, meaning that we can use the .ht access files, and by default this is going to be allow first of all and allow from all. So every single website or folder that's on there is allowed to have an ht access file or a .ht access file, and that .ht access file can change the main configurations within inside of this file. Okay, the user mod we're going to deal with inside of another tutorial, so we're going to leave that as is at the moment and keep going down. Directory index is very important, because this is the priority of which file it will search for if when asked to search a directory. So if we just say home.local / then it's basically going to look for the default file that it should load. Now we're going to be using PHP, therefore we're going to insert PHP, and it should prioritize the .php, the index.php file over the index.html, and then the index.html.var. So we're saying, hey, the most important one is index.php first to load. Now if you put index.php after index.html, and you have an index.html and an index.php within sort of the same folder, it will load the index.html if index.php comes after this. So for example, this, if you have it first of all index.html followed by index.php, then by default if both of these files are within inside of the directory, then it will load the index.html first. That's not what we want. Okay, we want the index.php as priority. Now if you don't have an index.php within sort of that directory, but you do have an index.html, then it will default to the index.html. Okay, and if it doesn't have an index.html, it will go to the html.var. If you don't, then you're going to get a directory access error. Okay, now the access file name, so we're going to leave as htaccess and then continue on. The rest from here is pretty much we can leave and keep going down and down and down. Server signature on, we're going to cover that in another tutorial, and go down, keep going and keep going down and keep going down all the way. What have we got? Yep, don't need that. Languages we're not bothered about. Okay, and this stuff we're not bothered about so far, and really we could just go by pages from now on. So we're going to go by pages at the moment because it's faster. Okay, and none of this stuff, and this is then basically you can just come to the bottom and then page up a little bit until you see the name virtual host. We need to need to delete this hash file, because we're going to add more than one virtual host to this for the time. Well, for this one we're going to only have one, but in the future you're for sure going to want to have more than one domain or more than one website on your server. Therefore you're going to need to use name virtual hosts. Now because we're going to use it using name virtual hosts rather than IPs, we're going to leave this as a star, and all the requests are going to be through port 80, and we're going to use the host. I forget the name. With inside of the header, you then get the host variable. We're going to worry about that. So whatever the request says with inside of the header for the host, then that's what we're going to use rather than the IP address. Okay, so we need to then uncomment all of these. Okay, so we now got all of this, and with inside here the server admin, we're then going to put as root at home.local. I mean, it's just a fictitious email address, it's not going to actually do anything. And then the document root, we're going to make var www HTML, and then we're going to say home.local. Okay, and then end this. Now I've found that it's kind of better sometimes just to put quotation marks around it. It works. I just found if you put a dot inside of it sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, I've tested it doing with and without, and sometimes it does work and doesn't work, but there shouldn't be any issue, but I just find it's easier to put them in double quotes. Okay, server name in this example, what we're going to do is we're going to say www.home.local. Now this is only going to work if someone requests the website www.home.local explicitly with www. on it. Now I know a lot of browsers, they automatically fling it to www. as well, but if that doesn't happen, then what we're going to do is we're going to add server alias, and we're just going to put a wildcard and then home.local. Now if you intend to have another virtual host using a subdomain, then it's not good to have this wildcard there, because then it will then default to the first entry where it sees. So if this is the first virtual host and it sees this star and it's a subdomain which you're requesting, then it will default to this one here. So it's actually probably better to leave it as home.local. Then you're explicitly saying, hey, only requests for home.local or www.home.local are going to be done by this one website. Now if someone does request for another page and it resolves to this one IP address, if you've only got one virtual host, then it will default to the first entry. Okay, so being there only one entry, then it will land on the first entry, so all requests will go to this one website anyway. In this scenario we're not going to worry about that, so we're going to then remove this and leave logs and just put home.local here. Okay, so we're just going to keep the error log and then come here, and then the access log. We're going to make an individual log file for each virtual host that we add. Okay, now I like with inside of our website folders to also have an httpd or http docs folder where the website actually is, which basically then means that you've still got space to have other folders that are outside of the actual document root, which you can then use. Okay, so that's basically that bit done. So we're just going to press escape, colon WQ to save. We're not going to start the service yet because that folder does not exist. So we're gonna actually navigate first of all to the var www folder. And as you can see here, we've got the HTML folder just there. So let's go into the HTML folder, and as you can see there's nothing in there right now. So we're just going to say make directory and say home.local, and we're also then going to say http docs, and we're going to add the switch of p, which is basically going to say make all subdirectories as well, because home.local folder doesn't exist, therefore it can't make http docs. But with the P switch, then it's going to make it for us anyway. So that's all good. Now what we are going to make is a user, a group, and we're going to make a user, because it just adds that extra bit of protection to the folder. We don't want it to be owned by root, because at the moment if you look, this one folder is owned by root, and we don't want that. So first of all we're going to make a user of home, okay, and we're going to say we're going to give it SSH access, and we're going to give it a shell, and also the default directory we need to change, because normally it would go under the home directory. So we're going to say var www http and then home.local, but yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, and then we're going to basically say group, which that's fine, we'll do it afterwards. We should have made the group before, but it's done now. So we're going to call this person then home user. Okay, so just press enter. Okay, warning, the home directory already exists. That's fine, it doesn't matter, it's just because the directory was already there, but it's fine, the user is added. Now what we want to do is we want to say group add, and okay, and we're just going to say home group. Alright, so whoops, don't want groups, want group add, and say home group. Now we're going to say user mod, and we're going to do the switch of the uppercase G, and we're going to say then the home group is the group which we're going to add, and we're going to say home user. So we're basically saying we're adding home user to home group. Okay, so it's a modification of the user. We do that, and then we're going to say password for home user. Not that we actually need a password, but if they want to have SSH access, then we need to know that they have a password as well. So password home user. I'm just going to type a password in here. You don't see it, and then retype the password. Okay, now a password has been set for this one user. Now if we still come here, we see that the home.local folder is still owned by root, so we need to change the group. Therefore we're going to say change chown, and we're going to say the capital R is one of the switch, or dash capital R is one of the switches for recursively, so it's going to go down to every single folder. And we're going to say then home user, and then it was home group. Alright, so that's basically what we're telling it to do, is that the user is going to be home user and the group is going to be home group. So anyone with inside of home group can access this one folder, and also then the home user owns the folder. So HTML and home.local and that will be enough for there, because it's going to be recursively anyway. Okay, now we can then LL this out, and we can see that it's owned by this. Now if we now come to LS and then Z, like big Z, we now see the SE Linux labels on there as well. And we can see that it's httpd sys content _t. This is hugely important because SE Linux is going to stop anyone from accessing this file if it doesn't have the right SE Linux label on it. Okay, so that's important, just to make sure. SE Linux is a complete other tutorial, and many other tutorials as well, but it's something that you need to make sure that it's httpd sys content _t. Okay, it has that label. Okay, so now that we've done that, we need to actually make some content with inside of it. So we come into the home local, and then the httpd the httpd docs, and we're just going to say vim and then index.php. Okay, and with inside of here we're just going to add some PHP tags and say hello all, I am here. So we're not going to say hello world, we're just going to say hello all, be a bit nicer. Okay, so we'll exit out this by pressing escape, colon, and then WQ. Okay, so now we've got the file in there which we need. Now it's time to start the HTTPD service. So we just say service HTTPD restart. I just like to say restart for the sake of it. Okay, so it failed on the first stopping it because the service wasn't started already. Okay, and then we got the OK for starting the HTTPD service. Now we should be able to say ping home.local, which we could do anyway, and it resolves to 10.10.10.30. Now if we come to Firefox and open that up, and then we come to home.local, okay, we see that we get echo hello I am here. Now this is because we don't have PHP installed yet, so that's something that we need to do. But as you can see, we are actually getting the website, which is good. Alright, so we know that it's at least working. So next thing we need to do is say yum install. Actually, let's just clear this. Alright, so we need to install PHP. Now with other ones you might need to say yum install PHP 5.3 or 5.4 or whatever it is you want. Now at this one time it defaults to PHP version 5.3 or 5.3. okay, although version 5.4 at the moment is out and stable as far as I know, we're just going to install PHP. Now we're not going to install any other packages for now, we're just going to leave it as PHP. There's many other packages which we should and could install right now, but I'm going to leave that for another tutorial. So let's go ahead and install. So it resolves everything, it downloads a few other dependencies which were required, and we install it. Now by default this installs it straight into the HTTPD server, so we don't have to do any other configurations whatsoever. This all straight away works. We come back to our page, and I believe we now need to restart the service as well of httpd. So service httpd restart. So it's stopping and restarting. Let's come back to here. Let's okay, so there we go. So this did a full reload of cache as well, and now we can see that PHP is running. So if we come to our if we vim our index.php file once again, and now come in here, and let's remove this line of echo I am here, and we're just going to say, whoops, yeah, sorry, I did a delete and then press P twice. Okay, we're just going to do PHP info, right, just to see the server configurations, and come back to here once again, and as we can see here, PHP is fully functional and working. Okay, so this will only work currently with inside of this one server because of the firewall is not allowing request through port 80 within. Okay, this is going to be done in the next one of the next tutorials. Okay, but for the time being, now you have a fully functional HTTPD server or Apache server that can run a website. All right, there's many other more modules that need to be loaded, but this has got you to a stage of it working so far. Okay, so that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next one where we can go even further. Now, if you just wanted to get to the point of being able to run an index.php file or a website on your server, then you've accomplished the task, although there is also MySQL Server needs to be installed. Therefore, I'm going to leave it that for another tutorial. Okay, so I hope to see you in the next tutorial. Thanks and goodbye.